Hello and welcome along. In this lesson we're going to be introducing sets in Python, as you may have guessed. Now, a set is another data collection type. I'm going to start by just mentioning some of the defining features of sets, and then of course we'll show you some examples. Now, unlike strings, lists and tuples, there is no defined order in a set. Now, in practical terms, that means you're not going to be able to refer to an individual item in a set via an index number. There's going to be no slicing, no sorting or reversing or any of that kind of stuff with a set. Sets are mutable, so we can add and remove items. I'll be showing you that. And I'll also show you one of the, I think, more interesting things about sets, which is that there can be no duplicate items within a set. So let's create a set here, call it nums. So one way to create a set is using these curly brackets, and we just separate the items with a comma. Now I'm putting some duplicate items in here just to show you that they will be dispensed with. So if we take a look at the set, we just have one of each number. Now, you can put anything immutable within a set. So you could have strings, tuples, can't have lists. Just to show you that lists don't work, if we try and set up another set, and if we try and put in a list of anything, doesn't matter, we will get an error message, unhashable type list, so that isn't going to work. Okay, now I want to show you how to create an empty set. There is a small trap you could fall into. First of all, let's create an empty list, which you can do easily just using these square brackets. Similarly, an empty tuple you can do with parentheses. So you might think that these curly brackets would give you an empty set, but that's not in fact the case. Just let me run the type function on all of these. You can see that A and B are indeed a list and a tuple respectively. C though is something called a dictionary, class dict. Now, I know we haven't dealt with dictionaries yet, but in one line, a dictionary is a collection of key value pairs. Can be very useful. We'll cover them later, but at this stage just be aware that empty curly braces does not give you an empty set. You can get an empty set by using the built-in set function, and you just don't give it any arguments like that. Right, moving on now to how to add and remove items from a set. Now, there is an add method which can take one and only one argument. Now, I know that the set is called nums, but let's just mix things up a little bit and add a string. And you can see that's been added on. Now, there is an update method which is a bit more interesting. I have to say I don't think I've ever used it, but update also takes a single argument. Now, that argument can be a set, a list, a tuple or a dictionary. It will automatically convert the argument you pass it into a set, and then it will add that to the set. So let's just add in, actually let's add in a list just for fun, because that does actually work with the update, but again it's not adding the list directly to the set, it's converting the list you pass into a set. And so let's just do some more numbers, and then if we look at nums, It's taken each individual item in the list we've added, converted that into a set and added it on there. So again, if we try to, well, these are all obviously duplicates there, so again we don't get an error message, but obviously they can't be added into the set again. Right, so that's adding to a set. If you want to remove an item, there are two methods, remove and discard. Now, the only difference is that remove will give you an error message if you try and remove something which isn't in the set. Whereas with discard, it'll just quietly do nothing. Now sometimes people ask, well in that case, why don't you just always use discard so that you don't get an error message? This will make a lot more sense later on, but without going into detail, there are times where you want your program to throw an error and then you can have your program deal with the error. So just bear in mind that because you're seeing these errors in the Python shell and it kind of stops everything in its tracks, you can have code in your program to deal with that error. So when someone's using a finished program, they're not going to see that error message because you've told your program to perform a certain set of actions in order to deal with it. But again, you don't need to worry about any of that at this stage. Right, I think that's most of what I want to cover in this lesson. I suppose I should just show you how to remove something which actually is in the set. And you see that 7 has disappeared. I will just quickly show you copy. It's very similar to the method that we saw for other data types as well. But we could do, for example, nums2 and set that to nums.copy. And then similarly with the other data types, we've got two independent sets. So we can add an item to one without also adding it to the other. I won't go through that in detail. You can refer to the previous lessons on sets and tuples because I know I did cover that there. Right, there's a nice easy one, clear, which basically just empties the set. So we don't need to pass it any arguments and the set is still there. It's just been emptied. Okay, so the next video will be saying some more about sets, but I'm going to end the lesson here and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks a lot now. Goodbye.